After 10 months of searching, I've been unable to identify the parasitic drain in the 4Runner. So, I'm taking it to the professionals. Again, but better professionals. Professionals I feel are going to help me. Professionals I have confidence will get the job done. Several months ago, when I was still on the quest to try to figure out what the parasitic drain was for the 4Runner, I asked Gilbert, because Gilbert seems to know a lot about cars, what he thought it could be. And he said, could be an aftermarket car alarm. It's like it doesn't even have an aftermarket car alarm. How could it be that? Finally figured out what the parasitic drain was. It was an old aftermarket car alarm that I didn't even know this vehicle had. I've been watching several videos and reading a couple articles about how to remove the aftermarket alarm system. And it's complicated. That thing is like a parasite. I guess it makes sense since it was a parasitic draw that just is connected through so many different systems in the car. From what I've been able to do research-wise, the brains for most of these are under the dash up front. But I think this top wire right here is part of the wire that's coming in off the power source, off the battery. I'm gonna try to remove this bottom panel for the dash and see if the brains for the aftermarket alarm are up there inside of it. Whew, it's getting hot in here. Well, it's certainly not obvious. This wire looks like the one I suspect coming in from the hood compartment. I might come to regret this, but I think I'm going to try pulling this out as far as I can to see where it leads. This little zip tie down here appears to only be holding that wire to this major one. Disconnect that, and that did free that up. I don't mind getting grease on my fingers, but I do mind getting grease on the camera. I change it from one position to the next. So this whole thing was the alarm? I love watching this now, knowing what I know now. Because past Todd didn't understand what was really going on here. Go Google Hella alarm and see what comes up with that. Okay, now get a load of this. So I go and I Google Hella, don't find anything. So I go on the 4Runner forum and search Hella,
first thing that comes up, these third generation 4Runners had hella fog lamps added to them after they hit the port. So it wasn't right away, but they were after the market. That totally makes sense why there's no car alarm battery in there, and there's no, and these go up to the front, which now that I've come out here and taken a look at it, they go right to the fog lights. When I very first began this journey, I thought potentially it could be the fog lights, because the switch for the fog lights has never worked. And I tried turning it on, trying to connect it. Now, this time when I was pulling the dash off, one of these 3 wires was not connected. So I'm wondering if that disconnect from the fog lamp was what was pulling it, not necessarily the drain. So now I want to try connecting that back to the battery, turn the fog lamps on, and see if we get the drain with the fog lamps fully plugged in, or if it's something else faulty with the fog lamps that's causing it. This just keeps unraveling more and more. Pretty exciting. When I pull the fuse for these fog lamps, that does drop it down some. When I tried to get the fog lamps to work, turning them on and off, that didn't seem to make a difference at all. But the bulbs could easily be burned out on that. Let's do a quick review of what we do know. One, this wire that goes to the aftermarket Hella fog lights was part of the parasitic drain. I think it's only dropping like 0.1 amps, so I'm not sure if that was still the major cause or not. But it wasn't an aftermarket alarm, it was fog lamps. The fog lamps do not work when all connected up. Most likely the bulbs are burned out. I don't know that I need the fog lamps, but I do want to pursue seeing if I can get them to work. And get them to work without necessarily being a parasitic draw. So I'm not going to remove any of these wires. I'm going to put the bottom panel back in and get everything set up. I guess that's all I really need to know. We know the draw was from this. We know it was the Hella fog lights added at the port of entry back in 1998 when this vehicle was brought into the US. Now Nanette said this was somehow this pin used to be part of the alarm, so it would measure whether somebody was tampering with the hood or not. And the wire for that got cut.